Let's talk about liquid gold, the ghee. In Sanskrit, there is a proverb that goes, Yat jivam sukham jivet, runam krutva ghritam pibet. So what this literally translates to is, live happily as long as you're alive and keep drinking ghee. If you don't have the money to get ghee, go get a loan and then drink ghee. So there was a lot of importance given to ghee in our ancient scriptures. Now our ancestors have been drinking ghee for several centuries and they've all lived happily and healthy. It's only in the last few decades that the refined oil industry came and replaced every Indian household's ghee. Thanks to maybe ketogenic diet or the modern research for bringing ghee into the limelight, today ghee is sold as a superfood in many supermarkets in the US, and it's also coming back in India too. Yet people still have a lot of questions and doubts and misconceptions on whether to use ghee, or is it going to make them fat, or is it's not good for their heart health, or it can increase their cholesterol, etc. So let's try to see how many of these are true. Is ghee good for everybody, or there are contraindications? Now the modern research already proved that ghee is excellent source or powerhouse of all these vitamins like vitamin A, vitamin K, the conjugated linoleic acid or the butyric acid, etc. And all of these are not very commonly available in other foods. So this is the best source to get all of these vitamins and nutrients. At the same time, it also proved that ghee can be consumed by somebody who's lactose intolerant. Why? Because the way ghee is prepared is by boiling the butter. And when you boil the butter, you evaporate all the water out and it starts to precipitate, and all the milk solids are sedimented at the bottom. So all these milk solids are removed at the end, and whatever you're left with is the purified or clarified butter. And because it's evaporated, unlike butter, you don't need to refrigerate it. It has longer shelf life. You can just leave it outside. And because all these solids have been removed, the milk solids have been removed from the ghee, it's even the milk protein, the lactose protein like the casein has been removed. So it's very easy for somebody who's lactose intolerant to consume because that ingredient is removed already. But let me talk about all the benefits of ghee from an Ayurvedic standpoint. Now, ghee, of course, is very good for somebody who has a weakened body, so it's very good for improving their immunity or the longevity or giving strength or reducing fatigue, insomnia. It's also a very good aphrodisiac, so very good for infertility issues. Ghee is very good for, it's a chakshuya, very good for your eye health. It also promotes a lot of healthy joints and lubricates your body. There is no machine, like even simple machines, that don't work without oil. You need some fuel to lubricate the machine. And of course, if it's a powered machine, you need a fuel to burn the power it up, right? So that's simple science. Just like that, we need these fats in our body, and we need this lubrication in our joints and in our body. So it's very good for joint health, and anybody suffering from arthritis, any arthritis, be it inflamed RA like rheumatoid arthritis or OA, osteoarthritis or osteoporosis, any bone or joint health issues, ghee is very good for them. Now it's also, so we're only talking about ingestion, but ghee is very good for topical application on your skin, promotes good skin luster, also good for your hair. And there is a formula listed in Charaka Samhita called Shatadauta Ghritam. And I prepare these. It's called Cream Up. It's a moisturizer, multi-purpose, and I'll make a different post about it, so I'll save it for now. So yes, it's also very good for skin and hair health too. It promotes very good intelligence and good for memory issues, for anybody who have learning disabilities. So for kids, because ghee is the only lipid that can permeate to your cerebellum and can coat the brain muscles. So it's very good for that. And ghee is very good to remove dryness. At the same time, ghee can also balance out excess oiliness. So if you have acne flare up or excess pitta in your body, ghee is very good for you. And And then, like I said, ghee has this very good permeating. It can go to the deepest dhatus, like the deepest tissues. So I actually have some success stories where I help people drop some weight just with switching from refined oil to ghee. And how does it work? Because ghee has this penetrating or the permeating property. It can pass all these barriers and go to the deepest places. And there is something called clogged or stubborn fat. So ghee goes and pulls the stubborn fat and brings it back to your gut, so it's easy for you to eliminate it from the nearest exit. So yes, so the ghee is very good for all of these. And the main important thing we talk about in Ayurveda is digestion. In digestion, there is a concept of Agni inside your body. Agni is nothing but your metabolic or digestive fire. So to kindle any fire, you need some fuel, right? So we do need ghee to kindle up this fire. Without this fuel, the body takes the juices. The pancreatic juices they take a long time to first excrete out, and they cannot work harder. The ghee makes it easier for the digestive system to work faster and better. So very, very good for anybody suffering from digestive issues. Very good for somebody who has constipation to take ghee at night before bedtime, and it helps act as a laxative. So let's see what are the mistakes people commonly do, right? So the very first common mistake people do is to consume ghee in solid form. So this solidifies. I just, it's been out for maybe a while, but it solidifies at room temperature. So this is how the ghee is when it solidifies. So you always want to melt the ghee before you consume. It should be in liquid form. Why? Because it's easy to pass in your body. It's easy to go and permeate into the deepest cells, right? But if it's solid form, it can go and get clogged somewhere. So that's very bad for your body. And it can have counter indications too. Two, why liquid? Because when you're measuring it, you want to take everything, keep everything in moderation. So the recommended suggestion is not to take more than 2 to 3 tablespoons a day. So you can split it between your meals. And if you take a spoonful, and the measure of a solid form versus melted form is totally different. You may be consuming excess when it's in solid form, because I work with a few people. They come to me after seeing the different practitioner and say, the previous practitioner told me to consume ghee every day. Yes, but you should make sure it has to be in melted form. And one, if you're taking ghee by itself and not with any food, you must sip hot or warm water right after it, so it goes and flushes into it quickly. And two, of course, you're taking this on top of warm food like soup or khichdi or a bread, then you can add it on the hot food and it starts to melt off. But when you're consuming by itself, you have to make sure it's melted before you take it orally. Okay, so that's one thing. And two, for anybody who have cough-related issues like lethargy or heaviness in their body, or excessive phlegm, mucus, congestion, or any upper or lower respiratory issues, it's better to avoid ghee. And three, for anybody suffering from ama. Ama is a name for toxins. It's similar to toxins, but there is much more going on in your body. So please work with a practitioner if you think you have ama. So how do we know if you have ama or not, right? The easiest way to look at ama is you have bad digestion. So you're not passing the stools every day. You have lethargy. You feel depleted every day. You lose your energy. You're not sleeping okay. You don't feel motivated. Or another physical way to look at it as a sign or a coating on a tongue. For kapha people, there is a white coating. For vata people, there is a brown coating. For pitta, there is a yellow type of coating. So it has to be pink. If there is a coating on your tongue, it possibly is an ama. So you need to get some kind of scraping or lekana therapy. So please see any Ayurvedic consultant to get that done before you consume ghee. So if you have ama, please don't take any ghee. Then the fourth very important thing to keep in mind is not all ghees are the same. The only ghee that is indicated in Ayurveda is cultured ghee. So what is cultured ghee? The way butter is prepared in America or in the West, well, probably even in India today because it's a shorter way of doing it, is you boil milk. Well, so it's nothing but, the butter is nothing but skimmed off fat from skimmed off cream from top of the pasteurized milk. So the cream from the pasteurized milk is skimmed off, and that is churned or extruded to make butter. But in India, traditionally or classically, the cream is not skimmed from the top of the milk, but instead you boil the milk and you set it or ferment to make it yogurt or curd, and then you skim off the cream from the top of the yogurt, and that's what is churned to make ghee. Okay, so that is one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is to take the butter from the milk, but you can ferment that. You can add a culture of yogurt to it and let it sit for a while till it ferments, and then you can melt it to make your ghee. I can show you a video on how to make this, but there is probably several companies out in the US as well that is selling cultured ghee, and I know a few companies. If you DM me, I can send you the links to it. I can also make you a video on how to make it. It's a longer route than just taking butter stick and putting it on a stove top and melting it. So if you want to take this for therapeutic purpose, please make sure it's cultured ghee. Well, the differences are, there is this probiotic added to the cultured ghee, and it also is helpful for your healthy gut flora, and it's also easy to digest and consume versus it's lighter. The molecules are much more, the molecular formula is totally different from the regular ghee from milk versus the ghee made from the fermented yogurt, and it's much more easier and lighter for your gut. But if there is no way you can get any of these, then at least make sure you're taking grass-fed A2 milk that is at least organic. That's the least we can do. But please, keeping all these contraindications in mind, if you have a healthy digestion, healthy gut, any individual like Bhagavata from Ashtanga Kriya, even Charaka Samhita, there is a lot of listing of indications and purposes for a ghee. So if you are a healthy individual, and if you are, if you are just planning to, one more indication is if you are having excessive, if you're suffering from obesity. So when I'm talking about somebody who's trying to shed weight, ghee can help, is, in a margin of 20 pounds to 10 kgs. But if it's more than 50 pounds or 60 pounds, if somebody is really obese and heavy and suffering from high cholesterol or high blood pressure, or any kind of heart-related issues, or a fatty liver, please do not consume ghee. That's contraindicated. So other than this, you can take ghee. So please do not feel guilty, do not fear, do not have any doubts, but please consume ghee. It is very, very helpful and healthy for you instead of taking any refined oil. If you have any questions, please send me a message. Thank you for listening. Namaste.